About a month ago now, I put out my second official YouTube video called The Decline of Shoujo Anime. And man, did that video do numbers. It was absolutely insane waking up every morning and just seeing my subscriber notification constantly going off. I saw the video being talked about on Twitter, on Reddit. I even had one of my old college friends message me and be like, hey, you showed up on my YouTube recommended. The love on that video and the amount of people that were like, yeah, what did happen to shoujo anime was so cool to see, and I can't thank you guys enough for it. But there was also that. There is no decline. Women will grow out of manga and anime. I always with occasional the other point is how male females are more diverse. If you want to claim social shut up! Okay, so yeah, a lot of people had a lot of things to say about the video. And looking at the rate in which they actually watched it, about 7 out of 10 people didn't even get to my first point. While many of the comments were just trolls, weirdos, and dudes who didn't want people who look like me talking about feminine things, there were genuinely people who thought that they were correct in what they were saying, telling me that I know nothing about the anime industry or that I just severely misunderstood how things work. But the comment that I got the most was this one right here. There's just no variety in shoujo. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 little words that people just seem to find objectively true. If I were to tell you that I was going to sit down and read a shoujo manga, most people would think that I'm about to read a flighty rom-com series that has little substance and I could just turn my brain off to read. Something with bright colors, girls in love, and just vapid romance. Well, this is first of all just a way for people to look down on the romance genre, which has beautiful storytelling and character relationships. It's also just a stereotype. This stereotype is bounced around like a beach ball in a Nickelback concert so much that even if you know that shoujo is a demographic, you might still think that if I say shoujo, it's romance. I have now touched on this subject in 2 different videos, this one and this one, that it might almost seem futile to even get into more details that shoujo isn't just high school romance. I probably shouldn't even take these comments at face value anyway, because they probably already think they're right and that the stereotypes are all true. But I am bad at letting things go. And I would like to tackle this at a different angle than I had previously. If for some reason you're seeing this video first and you haven't watched the shoujo anime video yet, hi, hello, my name is Colleen and you are now officially a hojo. But just as a refresher, I actually already mentioned the shoujo has no variety argument in that one, but it was just in a different way. In the shoujo anime video, I wanted to prove that shoujo having no variety was a silly argument because shonen romance set in high school are coming out just as much in the past few years. So today, we are going to be tackling this in another way. It's not that shoujo has less variety, it's that English speakers are introduced to less shoujo. We've already discussed that shoujo anime is on the decline and that they come out less frequently than their male demographic counterparts. So that would explain why anime fans think that shoujo has less variety. Fruits Basket, Yona of the Dawn, and Banana Fish having popular anime adaptations is what brought new fans to read the mangas here in America. But if an anime adaptation fails to recreate the source material in an accurate or even good way, casual manga fans are probably not going to go pick up that series. As is the case with Requiem of the Rose King, which most people have written off as just not a good series in general and aren't picking up the manga. I gotta be honest, I'm looking at all the anime that I listed just now, and I'm still just like, why do people think shoujo has no variety? None of those series are in the same genre, but I digress. There is still just less anime to introduce people to new shoujo manga. So what about shoujo manga? Maybe shoujo anime are less diverse because shoujo manga are less diverse, as this user claims they are not saying, but actually are. They seem to think that Jump and Jump Plus titles have more diversity than shoujo and can cater to more people's genre tastes. The fact of the matter, though, is that these titles are more accessible than anything coming from one single shoujo magazine. For English speakers, that is. I'm mostly going to be talking about Viz in this part of the video because they're the ones that have the imprints that we're discussing, but I will be touching on some other publishers as well. For a quick little manga publishing lesson, most American publishers are partnered with publishers in Japan. For example, Kodansha is obviously partnered with Kodansha, and Viz is partnered with Shueisha and Shogakukan. Shueisha is the owner of the magazine Shonen Jump and Shonen Jump Square, so that means Viz, under the imprint Shonen Jump, are running titles from these magazines such as Naruto and Blue Exorcist. However, they are also printing series from the Jump Plus app, which is an online publisher closely associated with Weekly Shonen Jump that also has original series running on it, like Spy Family and Kaiju No. 8. Of these Shonen Jump titles and Jump Plus titles, every single title that is currently running on this app and this magazine are available to read in English in some way or another, whether that be digitally online through the Manga Plus app or in physical prints. This is not the case for shoujo titles, and in fact, most ongoing shoujo titles you can't even read. There is no app to read shoujo titles as readily as Shonen Jump titles, and Viz has basically said there never will be. People have asked several times on the Shojo Beat's Tumblr if there will ever be an app, and basically every single time it's a resounding no. They cite several reasons for this, such as shoujo being published monthly, having less support, or that they would have to charge more for the app to offset the cost. So not only is shoujo manga less readily available, but it also never will be, which means that a lot of the manga community will never be able to understand the scope of how much shoujo has to offer. Compare this to the 100 plus shonen titles that are readily available for anyone to just pick up and read at any time of day. This leaves shoujo fans waiting for series just to get physical prints, which in the digital age is pretty scarce and leads to people turning to other means. But how many series can the English-speaking community even be left out on? Just looking at 3 different shoujo magazines, the answer would be quite a lot. Currently running shoujo series in the magazines Hana to Yume, Lala, and Melody are extremely diverse in genre, ranging from typical romance to psychological mystery. While these magazines have a few works published by Viz in some capacity, several others have been picked up by Yen Press and Kamiki, which is a digital-only publisher that actually just partnered with Shogakukan, Shueisha, and Hakusensha. I wanted to bring this up because unlike Jump, shoujo series from the same magazines aren't always published under the same American publisher, which splits up the demographic even more and leaves people even more confused on what shoujo is. So let's take a look at all 3 of these shoujo magazines and see what we have from them and what we're missing. Starting off, we're going to take a look at the best-selling shoujo magazine in Japan right now, which is Hana to Yume. Also, real quick before I start the video, if you want a more in-depth look of each of these magazines, I actually already made a video called The Diversity of Shoujo Manga, and I recommend you go watch that one as well. There are 15 series currently running in Hana to Yume, and of these 15 series, we have 4 published in English. We have Skip Beat and Yona of the Dawn, which are both published by Viz and have been ongoing for a while now. Sacrificial Princess and the King of Beasts, which is published by Yen Press, and I Won't Fall for Him Just Because of His Face, which is published by Kamiki. I guess if you squint really hard, all of these series are the exact same because they have a form of romance in it, but the main genres are all different.
Corporate needs you to find the differences between this picture and this picture. Intel has told us there are at least 7.
Skip Beat is an acting drama, Yona of the Dawn is an adventure fantasy, and Sacrificial Princess is a political fantasy. However, we are obviously missing out on some great shoujo series that are currently running in Hana to Yume or just recently finished. First and foremost, Colette Decides to Die. It is a true shame that we do not have this series in English. This is a lovely fantasy series about a girl who is overwhelmed by her job as a doctor, and wanting to end it all, she jumps into a well trying to get away from her stress. But she ends up in the underworld where she meets Hades. It is an amazing series that beautifully navigates life, death, and rekindling your passions. It also did so well in Hana to Yume that there's currently a sequel series that is running in the magazine. Colette is absolutely one of my favorite series, and just because we don't have this in English still, I opted to buy the Japanese volume so I could support the mangaka. Next in the magazine is Furare Girl, which just completed its last chapter in the magazine in June, and the last volume will be coming out soon. This is a series that plays more as a shoujo rom-com parody, but still is very grounded in the romance. The story is about a girl who looks incredibly mature for her age, and all the boys are ogling her, but there's one nervous boy who decides to ask her out, and the two of them start a romance together. There has almost never been a manga that has given me more laughs per page than this one right here. Not only is the romance good, but the comedy is perfect and it hits every time. This is another series that I obviously opted to buy the Japanese volumes for because, once again, we don't have them in English and I wanted to support the mangaka. There are currently 3 other standout series running in the magazine, one of which is by the Apothecary Diaries author called Kami-sama Gakko no Kami-sama Gakko no Ochikobore, which is about a girl whose hometown shrine is in need of a god, so she goes to school to become a certified god. You also have a slice of life comedy series by the Anonymous Noise mangaka about 4 boys who slack off in a club that they created, and fan favorite TSUIRAKU JK to HAIJIN, which is, unfortunately, a student-teacher age gap series, but is mostly a dark comedy. Like, dark comedy. Next, we're looking at Lala magazine, which is where some of my personal favorite series come from. There are currently around 20 plus series running in Lala right now, and of those 20 plus, we have 7 in English. This consists of 4 series from Shojo Beat, that is Natsume's Book of Friends, Snow White with the Red Hair, Vampire Night Memories, and Prince Freya. You have 2 from Yen Press, which is Love and Heart and Mint Chocolate, and then you have 1 from Kamaki, which is Together Forever. Once again, take a long hard squint because most of these series couldn't even be confused with each other unless maybe like Together Forever and Mint Chocolate because they're both romance comedies. But if you still don't think this is enough variety, let's take a look at some of the ones that we don't have in English because there are some very cool series that we are missing out on. First is the very messed up drama series TENDOU-KE Monogatari, which is about a girl who just recently lost her caretaker, and in a bid to follow him to the afterlife, she wants to help as many people as possible before dying. Oh, and she also wants to die when helping people. She ends up meeting the son of a rich family because she tried to help the bride escape from having to marry him, and now she has to help him instead. This series is literally everything. It's got a lot of drama, it's got mystery, there's some action, and romance. The plot and the characters are so interesting, and it's just a page turner every volume. It's like very hard to put down, it's so good. Another really cool looking one is a sci-fi series called SHIO no MACHI, which is from the same author as Library Wars, right here. This one seems to be set in a post-apocalyptic world where salt covers the earth, and I took a look at the first chapter raws that Lala had provided online, and it seems to get pretty dark within the first chapter, with the trio finding that one of them has a crystallized head in their backpack. If SHIO no MACHI is anything like Library Wars, you can definitely expect some great character chemistry and also just a super interesting plot. Several others that piqued my interest were Ryo no Kagehime, which is a fantasy series about a girl who wants to claim revenge on a water god who destroyed her village, and to do so, she infiltrates the palace by impersonating a maid. There's another really cool looking one called MIMIZUKU and the King of Night, which is a fantasy drama series about a girl that has the numbers 332 printed on her head, and she must offer herself to the King of Night to be eaten. You also have the pretty well-known manga series due to the anime being so popular, GAKUEN BABYSITTERS. And lastly, there was this really cool, interesting manga that seemed to be an online-only publishing from Lala, but it was called Happy Candy Life, and it was like a zombie Cinderella fantasy setting. It just looks so interesting. Lastly of the magazines we're looking at is Melody, which is a bit of a shoujo and josei hybrid magazine. It's aimed for an older audience of women, however the magazine itself says it's a shoujo, so we're just gonna say it's a shoujo. From Melody, there are currently 20 plus series that are ongoing in the magazine, and from that we have 3 that are published in English. There's Oku, which is under the Viz signature line, Idle Dreams, which is under Viz's Shojo Beat imprint, and then you also have Kageki Shoujo, which is from 7 Seas. There are actually so many series in this magazine that look super interesting and just really out there. And actually some of the mangaka in this magazine have been published in English before this as well. Series like this would include Himitsu Top Secret, which is by Reiku Shimizu. They had Moonchild previously published in English. This one is a psychological drama mystery series, kind of a procedural as well, where there's new technology in the world that can scan brains after death and see images like videos and be able to connect, you know, like police matters together by looking at these people's images after death. Many of the people who work on the task force that have to rummage through these images and videos of people moments before death end up going crazy, or they can't handle the trauma that they are seeing. And it's just a very dark series that really just goes into detail on very horrible, horrific things. People who love procedural dramas would eat this up, specifically anyone who likes Psycho-Pass, maybe even Death Note or Monster. Himitsu Top Secret is also on a sequel series currently publishing in Melody as well, so there are 2 different series of Himitsu Top Secret that we could get in English, maybe. This one might be a stretch because it's also on a sequel series, but YAKUMO TATSU looks like just such a cool supernatural action manga. The story follows a quiet man who has psychic abilities. He meets someone who has the same abilities as him, only to find out that the two actually knew each other in the past life, as they fight ghosts, demons, and the supernatural. I can't say much about this series because I can't find too much about the series. However, the art in the original run is very 90s, 2000s shoujo, so you know it already has my heart. But if you don't like that style, the sequel art is so cool looking. The volume covers, I was looking through Melody's online trials, and the volume covers, it just looks so good. I wish we could have this series. We need more supernatural action shoujos. The last one that stuck out to me the most was called Rhythm Nation by Tomo Matsumoto, who was the mangaka of Beauty is the Beast. I was only able to find a little bit of the raws online because Melody gives out samples that you could check out the first couple pages of chapter 1. But it just looks like it would be such a fun dance series. I really love the writing style of Matsumoto because it just feels very lived in and natural, so I hope at some point we can get Rhythm Nation as well. I had to put my retainer back in, so excuse me if I start lisping a little bit. These are just a few manga that are currently running in Japan that you may have never heard of or even knew existed because we had no access to these in any capacity. To recap, that is over 50 shoujo mangas in 3 different magazines currently running in Japan, where we only have 14 of them licensed in English. The scope of what we know as shoujo in America is so limited that not even I can scratch the surface of how much shoujo has to offer. This list doesn't even include older series that we've never got, like Tokyo Crazy Paradise, Seven Seeds, or Cat Street, and it doesn't include newer series from different magazines like Umi ga Hashiru Enroll, or Called Game, or Sero Opera. We cannot begin to compare the variety between shoujo manga and shonen when shonen is available at the touch of a button and shoujo doesn't get physical prints until the hype have completely died out or become non-existent. Take for example the recent shoujo releases and announcements in 2021 and 2022. We are only just now getting series that came out in Japan 10 years ago. Take for example Rainbow Days, which came out in 2011 and already got an anime adaptation in 2016. The mangaka of Rainbow Days has also completed a full manga before this release, which is a better manga, I might add, and already has volume 1 of their new series coming out this month. Another series we are just now getting is the 2010 series Heroine Shikaku, or No Longer Heroine, which also ended in 2013. The mangaka has completed 3 series in this time before we have even gotten the first volume of No Longer Heroine. Also, I've been filming this entire video during the Viz announcements. I might do a little bit more on that later, but they did just announce another series from the same mangaka as Heroine Shikaku called You're My Special One, I think it was, or You're the Special One. Anyway, it was one of the manga that came out in between us getting the release of No Longer Heroine. Quickly, I'll also just mention Tsubakicho Lonely Planet, Cheeky Brat, and Lovesick Ellie, which are all currently ongoing series in English or about to be coming out in English that all came out in 2015-ish time. Let me tell you, it is hard to be a shoujo fan. Not only are we constantly having to defend an entire demographic of manga from invalid comments that just aren't true, but we also don't even get content ourselves. Not only are shoujo animes few and far between, but it also seems to be that shoujo manga is just becoming less and less accessible these days. We don't have an app we can read shoujo on, we're getting series that are 10 years old that we may have already read through other means because they weren't available when they were actually releasing, or in some cases, we're not getting a shoujo title at all despite the fact that they're telling us it's a shoujo title. Shoujo has variety. Shoujo has always had variety. It was some of the early adopters of isekai, it plays with supernatural and fantasy elements, and it gives us good romance almost every time. I could sit here and defend shoujo all day from criticisms from people who've only read 1 or 2 series before. I really could. But in reality, I talk about shoujo because I love shoujo, and I want other people to love shoujo just as much. I love it because of the great stories, the fun characters, and the relatable themes. This is not the first video I've had to make in the defense of shoujo, and looking at the rate of which people are commenting on my shoujo anime one, is probably not going to be my last either. This is unscripted and at the end of the video, so I might be like stumbling over my words a little bit. However, Viz just had their licensing announcement, and my god, am I just disappointed every single time. We got one shoujo series. One whole shoujo series that came out in 2019 from Momoko Koda called You're My Special One or something like that. It's an idol romance series. It is pretty cute. I've read the first 3 chapters before, and I wouldn't deter anyone from buying it. I enjoy the series. However, the disappointment sets in every single time because we don't have best-selling series in America. We're missing Honey Lemon Soda, Mystery Toa Unikare, Furare Girl, Colette Decides to Die, Haiku Shitai Futari. I could go on, I really could. And I'm so frustrated. And I hope the frustration comes off because truly every time I see a Viz announcement, I think to myself, don't get your hopes up. Don't get your hopes up. It's not going to be anything that you care about, and it's not going to be any of the currently ongoing shoujo series. And that's just what it happens to be every time. There is still somewhat of hope because Shojo Beat said that they didn't have their timing synced up with the licensing announcement and that there's more to come. So like maybe we're getting more, but how much excitement should I have? Or are we gonna get another series from 2010 or 2015 that I've already read because there was no other way to read it? I try not to be so cynical, but after this licensing announcement, I'm just so cynical. Mystery Toa Unikare's Volume 11 came out, and it is #1 on Oricon right now. It is the #1 best-selling manga of the week, and we do not have the series licensed in English. It is just truly sad. It's sad. And I want to end this video on a high note. I want to have some sort of like, yeah, shoujo, it's great. And like, yeah, it is great, but like, it's so hard. It's so hard. I'm sorry to end this on like a really low, sad note, but I'm frustrated. I'm so frustrated with this community and this industry. And I know that I can't do much because I'm just a single person. So all I can do is be like, guys, pay attention, ask for these things. As for these series, they're good, I promise. But yeah, that's the end of the video. Hopefully we get something from the Shojo Beat announcement. Thanks for watching the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed, even though I was very cynical towards the end. And read shoujo! All right, bye!